Coming up on Mountain News this morning, the Kentucky General Assembly is taking on an issue that has made national headlines.
One Virginia lawmaker is pushing for a bill that would end hunger among school children.
And one local music venue is starting a program to help a struggling high school band.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. The time is 5:33 on January 10th. I'm Madison Pergram.
And I'm Will Puckett. Thank you for tuning into Mountain News This Morning on this Friday.
On this Friday, kids' last day of school for the week.
Our last day of work for the week, asterisk next to mine.
Yeah. Well, let's go to Brandon Robinson. Brandon, so you had good news for us this morning. It might not rain as much as we thought.
Not today, anyway. Now, tomorrow, I think it's still going to be a kind of a back and forth type pattern. But today, it looks like the moisture, for the most part, will hold off. Take the umbrella just in case, because we could have a few stray chances at some showers. I can't completely rule it out today. Let's take a look at the satellite radar the last few hours. A little bit of a break in the clouds, but it's starting to kind of thicken back up there. You see the rain off in the distance, but again, not getting too close to us just yet. The moon is out here on Buffalo Mountain in Perry County, so we're going to continue to see, again, a little back and forth with that. Temperatures in the 50s area-wide, from 50 in Wise and Middlesboro to 57 in Williamsburg and in Jacksboro. That warm air continues to surge in. Temperatures were supposed to drop a little more, but I think they're going to just start going up at this point. 66 later this afternoon, and it could get a little closer to that record breaker, which is 69 for today, set back on this day in 2018. The rest of the forecast on the way here in just a little bit. Madison?
Thank you, Brandon. Well, the Kentucky Senate Republicans say their top priority deals with a bill that is aimed to stop sanctuary cities from undocumented immigrants, one that has the support of Attorney General Daniel Cameron.
Meanwhile, opponents say it's not needed and is actually discriminatory. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more on the measure that could pick up steam in this year's legislative session.
The bill was filed on the first day of the session, and Senate Republicans gave it their top priority status.
And I've gotten a lot of questions as to why it's Senate Bill 1. It's Senate Bill 1 simply because it is a public safety issue, and public safety is one of the very basic priority tenets of state government.
Senator Danny Carroll says he and others don't want police to have their hands tied when dealing with immigration agents. And Daniel Cameron announced his full support.
It's legislation that recognizes the incredibly difficult work that our law enforcement members undertake every single day.
Kentucky currently has no such sanctuary cities or safe havens for undocumented immigrants, but the bill aims to essentially stop something before it ever happens.
This bill protects the status quo as it relates to the activities of immigration.
So what this bill does is restrict something that doesn't even exist.
Senator Reginald Thomas of Lexington says the bill is not needed and is actually very harmful and will lead to profiling.
What it says is if there's an investigation, then law enforcement officials have a right to come ask you your American status.
The American Civil Liberties Union issued a statement just before the start of the press conference calling the bill dangerous, saying that it would require law enforcement to blindly carry out requests by federal immigration authorities. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
Now, the bill would exempt schools and public boards of education and does not allow immigration officers to enforce laws in jails. Meanwhile, advocates for Kentucky's crime victims are making another push for Marsy's Law. Last June, the Kentucky Supreme Court ruled the proposed amendment question on the ballot was too vague and voided the vote that passed in a recent election. Senator Whitney Westerfield filed a new version of the amendment Thursday. The amendment that would guarantee rights for crime victims includes an added provision allowing victims to be heard and notified in the consideration of pardons or commutations.
And the House committee will consider a sports wagering bill this session. The Licensing, Occupations, and Administrative Regulations Committee has posted House Bill 137 for consideration. The bill would legalize sports betting at racetracks and allow online betting. A similar bill was filed last year but did not receive a vote in the House. The state Senate is also considering a sports wagering bill this session.
West Virginia lawmakers have already introduced hundreds of different bills across the House and Senate. One of those bills is looking at easing restrictions around vaccine requirements in the state to give people more options. Senator Mark Maynard, who represents parts of Wayne and Mingo counties, is sponsoring the bill. He says he's not an anti-vaxxer, but has heard horror stories from his constituents. His proposal will allow people to not vaccinate their children based on religious beliefs or other personal objections to vaccinating a child. But one doctor says it can be dangerous having unvaccinated children.
We forget what these third world diseases look like in person, and we don't want to go there again. But that's where we would be headed if we allow legislation like this to come through.
The bill has been given to the Senate Health and Human Resources Committee. Two similar bills are being introduced in the House of Delegates.
And a Virginia state lawmaker wants to help students who may not always have the money to pay for school lunch. Delegate Danica is proposing changes to school meal programs. If passed, no student can be forced to throw away an already served meal if they don't have the funds. Eliminate alternative meals if a child can't pay, and allow school boards to accept donations to pay off meal debt, and increase parental notifications for negative balances.
When you're hungry, you're not focused on your education, you're focused on your belly. I want to make sure that, especially as an Italian stepmom, I'm feeding everyone,
Another bill could give students who qualify for free and reduced lunch additional food if there are leftovers. No word on if those new bills have any chance of passing the Virginia General Assembly. And a deadly shooting last month at a Texas church has church leaders and members looking at their own safety plans. Last night, church members from Central and Eastern Kentucky met in Moorhead to find ways to improve their security.
The seminar was held by local law enforcement and taught everything from medical emergencies to active shooter situations. Nick Oliver has more on this story.
Unfortunately, we're just in that world.
When walking through the auditorium doors at Better Life Church, you normally hear a message.
That at any time, at any place, any situation can happen.
Preaching is happening, but preaching safety is Thursday night's focus.
I always use a fire extinguisher as a prop. I point to the fire extinguisher and say, we're not expecting a fire today, but we have a fire extinguisher.
During the seminar, hundreds of leaders and members from churches learned about medical emergencies, child and crowd safety, and of course, active shooter situations. You may remember, shortly after Christmas, a gunman killed 2 members in a Texas church. Seconds later, another church member would kill the gunman.
You want to bring damaged people into church because that's what church is about. But there is a time that it crosses the line and you have to protect the congregation.
I think basically the churches are under fire.
Tommy Lambert is attending from Fleming County. He says the unknown is why people should take advantage of programs just like this.
It doesn't matter the size of the church. It's the preparedness, being prepared for the unforeseen.
The church and members of law enforcement say they hope to continue this year in and year out, all for the preaching of safety to be put into action Sunday after Sunday. In Moorhead, Nick Oliver, WKYT.
Now, members of law enforcement also talked and passed out resources following the event.
And with limited funding options for school-based arts programs, many high school bands are just trying to make ends meet. That is no different for Prestonsburg High School, and WYMT's Buddy Forbes has more on what local entities are doing to help out.
Not to toot their own horns.
Arts are so important to students because of the life lessons that it teaches.
But high school arts programs put a lot of work into their crafts.
You have to work through it. You have to work hard to get better, to get through it.
But a lot of work does not always equal a lot of funding.
Some of the arts have been cut so much in the last few years. We felt like we were in a place to try to help with that.
That is why the Mountain Arts Center is introducing a new event.
We're here for a reason. We were built for education and helping the schools and the students, and we want to continue to be a part of that and grow and expand on that.
January will bring musicians to the MAC for a night of benefit singing.
It's a night of country and blues and rock and a lot of Americana, so it'll be a good night.
All proceeds from the first event will go toward reviving Prestonsburg High School's band program to purchase more instruments for students who cannot afford to buy their own.
This area, with the talent that's here, it would be great to start them in school so that they can give them the foundation they need for their future careers.
Celebrating those who bring art to the mountains. In Floyd County, Buddy Forbes, WYMT Mountain News.
Now, January is scheduled for 7 p.m. on Saturday, January 25th, and organizers say this will be an annual event and a different school will benefit each year.
Coming up, we'll head out to Hollywood to get the latest entertainment news in your Eye on Entertainment Report.
Temps and winds, those are two things to watch as we head into the weekend. I'll tell you why in about 3 minutes.